The alarm bells rang across Earth Defense Command Station. Alpha, as massive shadows began to appear in the void above Earth, one by one. Alien warships materialized from the darkness of space, like nightmares becoming real. Their hulls gleamed with strange metals that caught the light from distant stars. Captain Lee Dayon stood perfectly still on the bridge of the command station. His dark eyes watched through the massive viewport as more and more ships appeared. The alien vessels were huge, each one easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest battleships. Their design was sleek and deadly, with weapon ports glowing like angry red eyes along their sides. "Sir, we have a count," Lieutenant Park Min-ho called out from his console. His voice shook slightly as he read the numbers. 500 ships. Captain, 500 of them. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet humming of computers and life support systems. Every person on the bridge understood what they were seeing. This was an invasion force unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The alien fleet stretched across space in perfect formation, organized and disciplined like a parade of death. Dayon walked slowly to the central command chair and sat down. He placed his hands calmly on the armrests and continued to study the enemy formation. The alien ships moved with precision that spoke of years of practice. Their positioning was textbook perfect, exactly what any military academy would teach, for overwhelming a weaker opponent. Captain Sergeant Kim Ji-won spoke from the communications station. "We are receiving a transmission from the lead ship. It appears to be in multiple languages, including our own." "Put it through the main speakers," Dayon ordered. A voice filled the bridge, deep and commanding, with strange alien tones that made it sound mechanical and cold. "Primitive inhabitants of the third planet, I am Supreme Commander Vorthok of the Dominion Alliance Fleet. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our great empire." The alien commander paused, letting his words sink in. "You will surrender all military assets immediately. You will cease all resistance. We'll prepare your population for processing and relocation. You have 1 rotation of your planet to comply with these demands." Another pause. Then the voice became harder and more threatening. "Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your civilization. We have conquered 847 worlds before yours. None have successfully resisted our might. Do not be the first to try." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Lieutenant Park Min-ho turned in his chair to look at Captain Dayon. "Sir, what are your orders?" Dayon continued to study the alien formation through the viewport. The enemy ships hung in space like a dark cloud, blocking out portions of the star field beyond. Their positioning showed confidence and experience. These aliens had done this many times before. Slowly, a small smile appeared on Dayon's face. Then he began to chuckle quietly. The sound was soft at first, but grew slightly louder as he continued to examine the enemy fleet. "Sir?" Lieutenant Park asked, confusion clear in his voice. "Captain, are you all right?" Dayon's chuckle grew into a genuine laugh. He leaned back in his command chair and shook his head with apparent amusement. "Look at them, Min-ho, just look!" "At that formation?" "I see 500 enemy warships, sir," Park replied carefully. "Exactly," Dayon said, his eyes sparkling with something that looked almost like delight. 500 ships in perfect textbook formation. Approach vectors straight out of a military manual. Standard intimidation positioning designed to create maximum psychological impact. Major SEO Kyun looked up from her tactical station. "Captain, I am not sure I understand why this is amusing." Dayon stood up and walked to the viewport again. He pressed one hand against the transparent metal and studied the alien fleet more closely. They're following every rule in the book. Major, every single tactical principle for overwhelming a technologically inferior opponent. It was almost like they were reading from a script. He turned back to face his bridge crew. "This formation is perfect for intimidating a primitive world that has never seen space combat. The positioning maximizes their apparent numbers while keeping their most powerful ships in commanding positions. Their weapon systems are charged, but not locked on target, showing confidence that we will surrender without a fight. Sergeant Kim spoke up from her station. Sir, they are waiting for our response to their surrender demand. Dayan nodded and walked back to his command chair. Very well. Open a channel to their lead ship. Channel open, sir. Dayan's voice became formal and professional. Supreme Commander Vorthok, this is Captain Lee Dayan of Earth Defense Command. We have received your message and understand your terms clearly. He paused for a moment, glancing once more at the alien formation. We acknowledge your fleet strength and your demand for surrender. We will be ready to respond when your deadline arrives. After the transmission ended, Lieutenant Park stared at his captain with wide eyes. Sir, did we just agree to surrender? Did I say we would surrender, Lieutenant? Dayan asked calmly. Well, no, sir, but you said we would be ready to respond. Exactly what I said. Dayan activated his personal communication device. All stations, this is Command Alpha. Execute Preparation Protocol 7. I repeat, Execute Preparation Protocol 7. Across the solar system, hidden installations began to activate. On Luna Base, Admiral Choi Sun-woo received the coded message and began powering up systems that had been dormant for months. On Mars Command, General Yoon-hoon started the process of moving her forces into position. In the asteroid belt fleet, Commander Nam Jisoo ordered her mining ships to begin their transformation into something very different. Back on the command station, Dayan settled into his chair and continued to watch the alien fleet. The enemy's ships maintained their intimidating formation, confident that their overwhelming numbers would force a quick surrender. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Captain Major Seo Kyung said quietly, the aliens appear to be settling into a standard occupation formation. They are positioning for what looks like a peaceful takeover. Of course they are, Dayan replied. This is exactly what they have done 847 times before. They arrive with overwhelming force, demand, surrender, and expect immediate compliance. He stood up again and clasped his hands behind his back. What they do not realize is that humans have a very different approach to uninvited guests. Lieutenant Park looked confused. Sir, what approach is that? Dayan's smile returned wider this time. We prepare a proper welcome for them, Lieutenant. And I have to say, 500 ships is absolutely ideal for a warm-up exercise. The alien fleet continued to hold position above Earth, waiting for humanity's surrender. Supreme Commander Vorthok was confident that within hours, this world would join the growing Dominion Alliance Empire. He had no way of knowing that he had just made the greatest tactical error of his long military career. The trap was set. The aliens had walked directly into it. Supreme Commander Vorthok stood on the bridge of his flagship. The Endless Conquest, watching the small blue planet rotate slowly beneath his fleet. His forearms were crossed behind his back in a gesture that showed complete confidence. Human response had been exactly what he expected from another primitive world about to join his empire. Commander, his tactical officer approached with careful steps. The humans have acknowledged our demands. Their message suggests they will comply when the deadline arrives. Vorthok's large eyes, adapted for seeing in the darkness between stars, studied the planet below. Of course they will comply, Officer Nexus. Look at their pathetic orbital installations. A few small stations, some basic satellites, nothing that could threaten even one of our smallest ships. The bridge crew around him nodded in agreement. These aliens had served under Vorthok for many years, conquering world after world with the same simple strategy. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and watch as the primitive inhabitants gave up without a fight. Sir, the communications officer called out, We've completed our scan of their military capabilities. The results are as expected. Vorthok walked over to the display screen where images of Earth's defenses appeared. The orbital stations looked crude and basic compared to Dominion technology. The small ships moving between planets were clearly designed for cargo transport rather than combat. Everything about this civilization screamed of a species that had barely mastered space travel. Pitiful, Vorthok muttered. How did such a weak race even achieve faster than light communication to send their distress signals across the galaxy? Perhaps they stole the technology, sir, Officer Nexus suggested. Many primitive worlds acquire advanced equipment through trade or theft before developing the wisdom to use it properly. Vorthok nodded thoughtfully. This explanation made sense. The humans had probably found some ancient technology or traded with more advanced species for communication devices. It was the only way to explain how such a backward world had attracted the attention of the Dominion Alliance. Meanwhile, far below on Earth's surface, a very different conversation was taking place. Captain Lee Dae-yoon stood in the secure conference room of Earth Defense Command, surrounded by holographic images of military leaders from across the solar system. Admiral Choi Sun-woo's image flickered slightly as the quantum communication link adjusted to interference from Jupiter's radiation belts. All Luna-based systems are online and ready, Captain. The enemy still believes our installation is a simple research station. Excellent, Dae-yeon replied. General Yoon, what is the status from Mars Command? General Yoon. Haeun's stern face showed a slight smile. My forces are in position and waiting. The aliens have no idea that our mining operations have been building something special for the past 30 years. Fleet Commander Nam Jizu spoke next, her voice crackling through the communication system from the asteroid belt. All mining ships have completed their transformation protocols. We are ready to show these invaders what human engineering can accomplish when properly motivated. Dae-yeon studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet positions. The enemy ships maintained their intimidating formation, exactly as predicted by Earth's military strategists. Every aspect of their approach matched the patterns observed. From previous Dominion conquests throughout the galaxy, they are following the exact same strategy they have used on 847 other worlds, said to the assembled commanders. Perfect formation, overwhelming numbers, psychological intimidation followed by demands for immediate surrender. And it has worked every time, Admiral Choi observed. Until now. Dae-yeon nodded. The question is whether they have grown so confident in their method that they have become careless. Based on their current positioning, I believe they have. Back on the alien flagship, Vorthok was reviewing intelligence reports about humanity. The information painted a picture of a young species that had only recently developed interstellar technology. Their military was small and inexperienced. Their weapons were primitive chemical rockets and basic energy systems. Their defenses consisted of nothing more than early warning satellites and a few lightly armed patrol ships. Commander Officer Nexus approached again. Shall we begin descent to optimal bombardment range? Not yet, Vorthok replied. Let them think about our presence for a few more hours. Fear is an excellent tool for ensuring complete surrender without the need for actual combat. The Supreme Commander walked to the main viewport and gazed down at Earth. The planet looked peaceful from this distance. With white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents, it was almost beautiful in its simplicity. Soon it would become another jewel in the Dominion's growing collection of conquered worlds. Sir, the sensor officer called out, we are detecting some movement among the human orbital installations. It appears to be routine maintenance and supply operations. Vorthok barely glanced at the sensor readings. Standard behavior for a civilization about to surrender. They are probably preparing to shut down their systems in an orderly fashion. Vorthok did not realize was that the maintenance operations he was observing were actually the final preparations for humanity's response. Across the solar system, installations that had appeared to be simple research stations, mining facilities, and cargo depots were revealing their true nature. On Earth's moon, massive doors hidden beneath layers of regolith were opening for the first time in decades. Inside these concealed chambers, weapon systems that had been built in complete secrecy were powering up. The energy signatures were carefully masked to appear as routine power fluctuations. Dr. Lim Soo-min sat in her laboratory deep beneath the lunar surface, watching as her quantum interference generators came online. These devices had been her life's work, designed specifically to counter the type of targeting systems used by the Dominion Alliance. Years of study and captured alien technology had finally paid off. All systems are green, she reported to Admiral Choi through the secured channel. The enemy will find their weapons considerably less accurate than they expect. In the asteroid belt, Commander Nam Jisu's mining ships were completing their transformation. External cargo pods fell away to reveal hidden weapon arrays. Drilling equipment reconfigured itself into missile launchers. What had appeared to be a simple civilian mining operation was actually a carefully disguised military fleet. "This is incredible," one of her junior officers whispered as he watched the transformation. "How long have we been preparing for this?"
50
"Years," Nam replied calmly. "Ever since we first detected Dominion signals from deep space, humanity has been getting ready for uninvited visitors ever since." Back on the alien flagship, Vorthok was growing impatient. The humans were taking too long to respond with their formal surrender. Perhaps they needed additional motivation to understand their hopeless situation. "Officer Nexus," he commanded. "Begin moving the fleet into attack formation. Show these primitives what happens to worlds that keep the Dominion Alliance waiting." "Yes, sir." All ships are acknowledging the formation change order. The massive alien fleet began to shift positions, moving from their intimidation formation into a more aggressive stance. Weapon systems that had been merely charged now began locking onto targets on Earth's surface. The message was clear: surrender immediately or face destruction. On Earth, Captain Daeyun watched the enemy movement with satisfaction. They are moving exactly as predicted. All commanders, prepare for final phase activation. The aliens are about to learn that humans do not surrender easily. The trap was nearly ready to spring. The moment had finally arrived. Captain Lee Daeyun stood perfectly still on the bridge of Earth's Defense Command Station Alpha, watching as the alien fleet moved into their attack formation. The enemy ships spread out across space like a deadly net, their weapons glowing brighter as they prepared to demonstrate their power. "All stations report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Park Minho announced from his console. His voice was steady now, no longer shaking with fear. The hours of preparation had given everyone on the bridge new confidence. Daeyun activated his personal communication device and spoke clearly into it. "All commanders, this is Daeyun.
Execute.
Mousetrap protocol.
Repeat.
Execute mousetrap protocol. Across the solar system." Those 3 words triggered the most carefully planned military operation in human history. Systems that had been hidden for decades suddenly came to life. Installations that had appeared harmless began to reveal their deadly secrets. On Earth's moon, Admiral Choi Sun-woo sat in the command center of Luna Base. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at their stations as massive doors opened on the lunar surface above them. "Lunar batteries are online," she announced. "All weapon systems are charging and ready to fire." The moon itself seemed to split open as enormous sections of its surface moved aside. Beneath the gray regolith that had hidden them for 30 years, the largest weapon batteries ever built by humanity emerged into the vacuum of space. Railguns the size of skyscrapers began to rotate toward their targets supreme. Commander Vorthok was still studying the peaceful blue planet below when his sensor officer suddenly cried out in alarm. "Commander, we're detecting massive energy. Signatures from multiple locations. Something is happening on their moon." Vorthok turned to look at his displays just as the first railgun fired. A projectile moving at nearly 10% of light speed struck his flagship's forward shields. The impact sent shock waves through the massive ship, throwing crew members to the floor and causing lights to flicker throughout the bridge. "Impossible," Vorthok roared, struggling to maintain his balance. "How can such primitives possess weapons of this power?" His answer came in the form of 46 more railgun shots, each one precisely aimed at a different alien ship. Supposedly, primitive humans had turned their moon into the largest fortress in the solar system, and they were using it to devastating effect. But the lunar batteries were only the beginning of humanity's surprise. On Mars, General Yunhoun watched from her command bunker as the Red Planet's mining installations began their transformation. "Mars command to all units," she spoke into her communicator. "Begin surface battery activation. Show them what we have been building." Across the Martian surface, mining equipment that had operated for decades suddenly revealed its true purpose. Drilling platforms reconfigured themselves into massive missile launchers. Processing plants opened hidden weapon bays. Even the ore. Transport tracks began moving weapons into firing positions. The alien fleet found itself under attack from multiple directions as Mars joined the battle. Missiles streaked across space from the red planet's surface, each one guided by targeting systems that had been secretly studying Dominion technology for years. Captain Ru Minwoo floated in the pilot seat of his small fighter, the Silent Thunder, as he watched the alien formation begin to crumble around him. The ship was one of dozens that had been hiding among the debris fields between planets, invisible to alien sensors. "This is Silent Thunder, Actual," he transmitted. To his fellow pilots, "The enemy is in complete confusion. Begin precision strikes on their communication arrays." The small human fighters had been designed to look like harmless cargo pods, but they carried the most advanced weapons humanity could build. As they emerged from their hiding places throughout the solar system, they began systematically destroying the alien fleet's ability to coordinate their response. Lieutenant Colonel Han Jimin piloted her fighter through the chaos of the collapsing alien formation. Her target was a massive communication ship that served as the fleet's command relay. "This is Strike Leader Han to all units. I have the primary command ship in sight. Beginning attack run." Her fighter dove through space toward the alien vessel, dodging defensive fire from its escort ships. The enemy gunners seemed confused, their shots going wide as if their targeting systems were malfunctioning. Han smiled grimly as she realized Dr. Lim's quantum interference generators were working perfectly. On the lunar research station, Dr. Lim Sumen monitored her quantum field generators with intense satisfaction. The devices were flooding space around Earth with interference patterns specifically designed to disrupt Dominion targeting computers. Every alien shot was being redirected away from human targets. "Interference fields at maximum effectiveness," she reported to Admiral Choi. "Enemy weapons are hitting nothing but empty space." Back on his flagship, Supreme Commander Vorthok watched in horror as his supposedly invincible fleet fell apart. Around him, ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were being destroyed by opponents they had dismissed as primitive. His perfect formation was dissolving into chaos. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Our intelligence said they were barely capable of spaceflight." Officer Nexus studied his instruments with growing panic. "Sir, their weapons are more advanced than anything in our databases. Our targeting systems appear to be completely compromised. We cannot hit anything." The bridge shook again as another human weapon struck their shields. Through the viewport, Vorthok could see his fleet scattered across space. Some ships trying to retreat while others attempted to return fire with weapons that refused to lock onto their targets. Captain Dayan's voice suddenly filled the alien bridge, speaking in perfect Dominion standard language. "Supreme Commander Vorthok, this is Captain Lee of Earth Defense Command. I believe you are beginning to understand your situation." Vorthok stared at his communication console in shock. Not only were these humans defeating his fleet, but they could speak his language fluently. "How do you know our military tongue?" he demanded. "We've been studying your people for 50 years, Commander," Dayan replied calmly. "We know your tactics, your technology, and your weaknesses." "Did you really think you could conquer a world without anyone noticing your approach?" The alien commander felt something he had not experienced in centuries of conquest: fear. These humans had not only prepared for his arrival, they had planned this battle down to the smallest detail. His overwhelming numerical advantage meant nothing against opponents who knew exactly what he would do before he did it, sir. "His sensor," officer called out desperately. "We have lost 112 ships. The humans are using weapons we have never encountered before." Vorthok looked at his tactical display and saw the truth written in glowing symbols. His mighty fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy he had completely underestimated. The humans were not surrendering. They were winning in the asteroid belt. Commander Namjisu watched as her disguised mining ships completed their transformation into a proper battle fleet. "All ships, this is Nam. Begin final assault on the remaining alien vessels. Show them what human miners can do when properly motivated." The battle was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Humanity's trap had worked perfectly. and the aliens were learning a harsh lesson about underestimating their opponents. The battle raged across the solar system as Supreme Commander Vorthok tried desperately to understand how his perfect invasion had become a nightmare. His fleet of 500 ships was being torn apart by enemies who seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. "Sir, we cannot establish proper targeting locks on any human vessel," Officer Nexus reported, his voice filled with panic. "Every time our weapon systems acquire a target, the coordinates shift at the last moment." Vorthok watched through his bridge viewport as another of his destroyers exploded in brilliant flames. The human attacks were surgical in their precision, hitting exactly the right spots to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. These were not the random strikes of a desperate enemy. This was the work of military minds that understood his ships better than he did. Dr. Lim Sumin sat in her underground laboratory on Luna Base, monitoring the quantum interference fields that were protecting humanity's forces. Her screens showed hundreds of alien weapon systems trying to lock onto human targets, only to have their targeting data scrambled at the crucial moment. "The enemy is attempting to compensate for our interference," she reported to Admiral Choi, "through the secure communication channel. But their computer systems are too rigid. They cannot adapt quickly enough to match our field modifications." She adjusted several controls on her console, changing the interference patterns in real time. Immediately, she saw dozens of alien missiles veer off course.
Ow!
Their guidance systems, confused by the new quantum signatures flooding their sensors. "Their targeting computers work on predictable algorithms," she explained to General Unover. "The command network, once you understand the mathematical patterns they use, it becomes simple to feed them false information. They see targets that are not there and miss targets that are right in front of them." Commander Quan Taeon piloted his fighter through the debris field that had once been part of the alien vanguard. His ship looked like nothing more than a basic cargo hauler, but appearances could be deceiving. Hidden weapon systems deployed. From concealed compartments as he approached his next target, "Strike Team Alpha, this is Commander Quan," he transmitted to his squadron. "The enemy is attempting to regroup near the outer planets. We need to break up that formation before they can coordinate a proper response." His wingmate, Oh Soo-yeon, acknowledged the order from her own disguised fighter. "Understood, Commander. My sensors show they are trying to establish a new communication network. Should we target their relay ships?" "Negative," Quan replied, as he lined up his attack run. "Target their escort vessels first. Without protection, the communication ships will be easy prey for our heavier units." The human fighters moved through, space-like schools of fish, appearing to scatter in panic, but actually following carefully planned attack patterns. When the aliens tried to pursue individual fighters, they found themselves led into ambushes by other human vessels that had been waiting in perfect position. Pilot. Beijuan smiled grimly as she watched 3 alien fighters chase her toward what appeared to be empty space. The enemy pilots had no way of knowing that Captain Rue's stealth destroyer was waiting there with all weapons charged and ready. "This is Beta Silent Thunder," she transmitted. "Bringing you 3 packages, as requested. Confirmed." Beiru's voice crackled back. "I have them on my sensors. Break away in 3, 2, 1, now." Bei's fighter suddenly dove straight down relative to the plane of battle, leaving the pursuing alien ships exposed to the destroyer's full weapon array. The 3 enemy fighters disappeared in flashes of light before their pilots even realized. They had been led into a trap. This pattern repeated itself throughout the solar system as human forces used tactics that seemed to defy military logic. Where the aliens expected direct confrontation, humans offered misdirection. Where they anticipated formation flying, humans scattered and struck from unexpected angles. Supreme Commander Vorthok found himself facing an enemy that refused to fight by the rules he understood. Every tactical manual in the Dominion database said that inferior forces should mass together for mutual protection. Instead, these humans spread out across vast distances and used their knowledge of local space to their advantage. "They know this system better than we do," he admitted to Officer Nexus as another group of his ships fell victim to a perfectly timed ambush. "They have turned every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris into a potential weapon platform." Indeed, humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment, Every mining station, research outpost, and cargo depot in the solar system had been designed with dual purposes. What appeared to be civilian infrastructure was actually a vast military network that could activate at a moment's notice. On Mars, General Yunhan coordinated the planet's defenses from her command bunker. The red planet's surface was dotted with installations that had been mining ore for decades. Now those same installations revealed their hidden nature as weapon platforms emerged from beneath the Martian soil. All surface batteries. This is Mars Command, she announced over the tactical network. The enemy is attempting to use our orbital stations as cover. Adjust your firing solutions to account for deflection shots. The Martian gunners had trained for years to fight in the complicated gravity fields around their planet. They knew exactly how to bank shots off asteroids and used gravitational effects to curve projectiles around obstacles. The alien pilots, accustomed to fighting in empty space, had no defense against such creative tactics. Lieutenant Colonel Han Jimin led her squadron through the wreckage of what had once been the alien fleet's left wing. Her fighters moved like dancers, weaving between debris and using the cover to approach their targets undetected. The enemy is learning to compensate for our quantum interference, she reported to Captain Dayon. Their newer shots are coming closer to their intended targets. Understood, Colonel Dayon replied from his command station. Dr. Lim is preparing countermeasures for their adaptation attempts. Continue your current attack patterns. In her laboratory, Dr. Lim was indeed working on new interference protocols. The alien targeting systems were more sophisticated than she had expected, capable of limited adaptation to her quantum fields. But she had anticipated this possibility and prepared several layers of countermeasures. Switching to Protocol 7, she announced as her fingers flew over the control interface. This should confuse their adaptive algorithms for at least another hour. The change was immediate. Alien weapons that had been slowly improving their accuracy suddenly began missing by even wider margins. The enemy gunners found themselves shooting at targets that seemed to jump randomly through space at the moment of firing. Vorthok watched his tactical display with growing despair. His fleet had been reduced to fewer than 200 operational ships, and the humans showed no signs of slowing their attack. Worse yet, his forces were scattered across the solar system, unable to support each other effectively. Commander, his communications officer called out, "We are receiving surrender demands from the human forces." Vorthok stared at the officer. In disbelief? Surrender demands? From them? Yes, sir. They are offering to allow damaged ships to withdraw from the system if we cease all hostile actions immediately. For a moment, Vorthok considered the offer. His mighty fleet was being destroyed, piece by an enemy he had thought too primitive to pose any threat. These humans had outmaneuvered him at every turn, anticipating his tactics and countering them with innovations he had never seen before. But surrender was not something a Dominion commander could accept, especially from a species that was supposed to be inferior. Continue the attack, he ordered grimly. We will show these primitives what happens to those who dare resist the Dominion alliance. It was a decision he would soon regret. Supreme Commander Vorthok stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, watching his once mighty fleet crumble into scattered remnants. The tactical display showed a sight that would have been impossible to imagine just hours before. Of his original 500 warships, fewer than 150 remained capable of fighting. The bridge around him was a scene of chaos. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, while emergency lights cast eerie shadows across the faces of his crew. The smell of burned electronics filled the air, and the constant vibration from failing engines made it hard to stand steady. Sir Officer Nexus approached with a datapad, his usual confidence completely gone. Our losses are catastrophic. We have lost 68% of our fleet strength. Many of our remaining ships are reporting critical damage to essential systems. Vorthok took the report with shaking hands. The numbers were even worse than he had feared. Entire squadrons had been wiped out by human weapons that seemed to appear from nowhere. His carefully organized battle formations had been torn apart by tactics that defied everything he knew about military strategy. How is this possible? He whispered, more to himself than to his crew. We are the Dominion Alliance. We have conquered nearly 1,000 worlds. How can we be losing to a species that barely knows how to travel between stars? The answer came in the form of another devastating attack. Captain Ru, Minwu's stealth destroyer, the Silent Thunder, had positioned itself perfectly to strike at the alien command ship's weakest point. His crew had studied captured Dominion technology for years, learning exactly where to hit for maximum effect. All weapons target their main reactor coupling. Ru ordered as his ship decloaked directly behind the enemy vessel. Fire when ready. Destroyer's weapons struck with surgical precision. Alien ship's shields, already weakened by hours of combat, failed completely. Explosions rippled along the hull as secondary systems overloaded and shut down. On his bridge, Vorthok felt the deck plates buckle beneath his feet as the ship lost main power. Emergency systems activated, bathing everything in red light. Flagship, the pride of the Dominion fleet, is dying around him. Commander Namjasu watched from her command ship in the asteroid belt as the final phase of humanity's plan began. Her mining vessels, now revealed as disguised warships, moved into position around the scattered alien survivors. "All ships, this is Commander Nam," she announced over the tactical network. "Begin encirclement protocol. Do not let any enemy vessel escape the outer system boundary." The human ships moved with perfect coordination, forming a net around the remaining alien forces. What had started as an invasion was becoming a trap with no way out. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies that had emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. Dr. Lim Samin monitored her quantum interference generators from her laboratory deep beneath the lunar surface. The alien ships were desperately trying to send distress signals back to their home territories, but her technology was blocking every attempt at long-range communication. "All enemy transmissions are being successfully jammed," she reported to Admiral Choi. "They cannot call for reinforcements or even report their situation to Dominion Command." The aliens were completely cut off from their empire, fighting a losing battle in a star system that had become their prison. Every human installation they had dismissed as primitive was now revealing weapons that surpassed their own technology. Lieutenant Colonel Han Jimin led her fighter squadron through the wreckage of what had once been the alien fleet's main battle line. Broken ships drifted through space, their hulls torn open by weapons they had never seen before. "Strike Leader Han to all units," she transmitted to her pilots. "Focus on disabling rather than destroying. Captain Daon wants prisoners for interrogation." Fighters swept through the debris field, using precise shots to cripple alien vessels without killing their crews. The human weapons were so accurate that they could target specific systems while leaving life support intact. On Earth's Defense Command Station Alpha, Captain Lee Daeun studied the tactical display with professional satisfaction. The battle was proceeding exactly according to plan. The alien fleet that had arrived with such confidence was now broken and scattered across the solar system. Sir Lieutenant Park Minho reported from his station, "The enemy is attempting to regroup near Jupiter. They appear to be trying to use the planet's gravity well as protection." "Contact General Yoon on Mars," Daeon ordered. "Have her redirect the orbital weapons platforms to intercept. Aliens will find that Jupiter offers them no safety." The red planet's hidden weapon systems adjusted their aim, sending a barrage of missiles toward the gas giant. The projectiles used Jupiter's own gravity to accelerate, striking the alien ships with devastating force just as they thought they had found shelter. "Major." Seo Kyung looked up from her tactical console with amazement in her eyes. "Captain, the enemy losses now exceed 90%. The remaining ships are scattered and unable to coordinate any effective response." "And our casualties?" Daeon asked. "Minimal, sir. We have lost 7 unmanned drones and sustained minor damage to 3 orbital platforms. No human fatalities reported from any theater of operations." The numbers were almost impossible to believe. Humanity had faced an invasion force of 500 advanced warships and emerged essentially unharmed. The aliens, meanwhile, had suffered losses that would be remembered as one of the greatest military disasters in galactic history. Supreme Commander Vorthok finally understood the full scope of his defeat. These humans had not simply defended their world. They had orchestrated a trap so perfect that his entire fleet had walked into it without realizing the danger. "Open a channel to the human command ship," he ordered his communications officer with a voice filled with despair. "Channel open, sir." Vorthok swallowed his pride and spoke words he had never thought he would say. "Human Commander, this is Supreme Commander Vorthok. I request immediate ceasefire negotiations." Captain Daeon's voice came back, calm and professional. "Commander, this is Captain Lee. Your request is acknowledged. However, I should inform you that ceasefire negotiations will be conducted according to human military protocol, not Dominion standard." "What does that mean?" Vorthok asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. "It means you will surrender unconditionally to Earth Defense Command. Your remaining ships will be impounded. Your crews will be processed as prisoners of war. And you will provide complete intelligence regarding Dominion military capabilities and territorial holdings." Vorthok closed his eyes in defeat. The mighty Dominion Alliance, conqueror of nearly 1,000 worlds, was being dictated terms by a species they had considered primitive. The irony was overwhelming. "We accept your terms," he said quietly. Across the solar system, the remaining alien ships began powering down their weapons in surrender. The invasion that was supposed to add Earth to the Dominion's empire had instead become humanity's introduction to galactic politics. The humans had won, and they had won decisively. 3 days after the battle, Supreme Commander Vorthok sat in a detention cell aboard Earth Defense Command Station Alpha. The small room was clean and well lit, but the walls were made of transparent aluminum that allowed his human guards to watch him constantly. He had gone from commanding 500 warships to being a prisoner in a space that was barely large enough for him to stretch his forearms. Captain Lee Dae-yoon entered the cell area, accompanied by Lieutenant Park Min-ho, who carried a recording device. The human captain moved with quiet confidence, showing none of the fear or hatred that Vorthok might have expected from a primitive species. "Commander Vorthok," Daeon said politely, taking a seat across from the alien prisoner. "I trust your accommodations are adequate?" Vorthok studied the human face carefully. These creatures looked so ordinary, so unremarkable compared to the mighty warriors of the Dominion Alliance. Yet they had achieved what no other species in the galaxy had managed to do. They had defeated a Dominion invasion fleet completely. "Your treatment has been fair," Vorthok admitted reluctantly. "Better than we would have provided to human prisoners. We believe that how we treat our enemies says more about us than about them," Daeon replied. "But that is not why I am here. You have information that could help us prevent future conflicts." Vorthok nodded slowly. He had already decided to cooperate fully with his captors. The alternative was watching more Dominion fleets suffer the same fate as his own. "What do you wish to know?" "Tell me about your empire," Daeon said. "How many worlds have you conquered? How many species serve the Dominion against their will?" Over the next hour, Vorthok described the vast Dominion alliance that stretched across thousands of star systems. Aide spoke of conquered species forced to serve as soldiers, of entire civilizations reduced to slavery, of planets stripped of their resources to feed the imperial war machine. Nearly 1,000 worlds, he concluded sadly, all taken using the same strategy that failed so completely here. Overwhelming force, demands for immediate surrender, followed by occupation and integration into the empire. Dae-yoon listened carefully to every detail. None of these worlds ever resisted successfully. None, Vorthok confirmed. Most surrendered without firing a shot when they saw our fleet strength. Those few that tried to fight were destroyed quickly. Until today, no species had ever defeated a Dominion invasion force. What will happen when news of this defeat reaches your empire? Vorthok considered the question carefully. There will be chaos. The Dominion has built its power on the belief that we are invincible. When word spreads that humans destroyed 90% of an invasion fleet, subject species throughout the galaxy will begin to question our authority. Meanwhile, in the outer solar system, 12 damaged alien ships limped toward the edge of human space. These were the only vessels that had managed to escape the destruction of Vorthok's fleet. Their hulls were scarred by human weapons, their crews traumatized by the unexpected defeat. Sub-Commander Krenix piloted the lead escape ship, his hands shaking as he tried to process what had happened. His military career had spanned 2 centuries of easy victories over primitive worlds. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for the methodical destruction of his fleet by enemies who seemed to anticipate every move. "Sir," his navigation officer reported, "we are approaching the hyperspace jump point. Shall I begin calculations for the return journey to Dominion space?" "Yes," Krennic replied quietly. "Send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them that the human invasion has failed completely. Tell them that we underestimated the enemy capabilities by several orders of magnitude." He paused, knowing that his next words would change everything. "Tell them that the Dominion Alliance has encountered its first true military defeat." The message burst was transmitted across the galaxy at faster-than-light speed, carrying news that would shake the foundations of the Dominion Empire. Within days, information would reach thousands of worlds where enslaved species had lived under alien rule for generations. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi Sunwoo met with the other solar system commanders in the secure conference room. Holographic images of General Yunhoun, Commander Nam Jasu, and Dr. Lim Sumin flickered slightly as the quantum communication system adjusted for interference. "The prisoner interrogations are providing valuable intelligence," Admiral Choi reported. "We now have detailed information about Dominion military capabilities, territorial holdings, and command structure. More importantly," General Yoon added, "we have learned that their entire empire is built on fear and intimidation. Their actual military effectiveness is much lower than their reputation suggests." Dr. Lim spoke up from her lunar laboratory. "I have been analyzing the captured alien technology. Systems are advanced but rigid. They have not innovated their military tactics in centuries because their old methods always worked." Commander Nam nodded thoughtfully, till they met. Humans who refused to follow the expected patterns. Captain Daeyoon joined the conference from his command station. "The question now is what we do with this victory. The galaxy will be watching to see how humanity responds to its first contact with an interstellar empire." "Sir," Lieutenant Park Min-ho interrupted from his console, "we are receiving multiple communication signals from unknown sources. The messages appear to be coming from various locations throughout the galaxy." Daeon activated the communication system and listened, as dozens of alien voices spoke in languages that Earth's computers were slowly learning to translate. Messages came from species across the galaxy, all saying essentially the same thing. "The humans can defeat the Dominion. Perhaps we can be free as well. We have been waiting for someone to show us that the Dominion can be beaten. Please, teach us how you achieved victory against the invaders." Dr. Lim studied the incoming signals with fascination. "Captain, these transmissions are coming from at least 40 different star systems. Word of our victory is spreading faster than we anticipated. It seems we have become a symbol of hope for oppressed species throughout the galaxy." Admiral Choi observed Captain Daeyoon leaned back in his command chair and considered the implications. Humanity had prepared for 50 years to defend their world against alien invasion. They had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations, but victory had brought unexpected consequences. "What do you think they want from us?" Lieutenant Park asked. "They want to know our secret," Daeon replied thoughtfully. "They want to understand how a supposedly primitive species defeated the mighty Dominion Alliance. And what will we tell them?" Daeon smiled the same quiet smile he had shown when the alien fleet first arrived. "We will tell them the truth. We will explain that the secret is not in our weapons or our technology. The secret is in our approach to problems." He stood up and walked to the viewport where Earth hung in space like a blue jewel. "We study our enemies. We prepare for every possibility. We work together as one species, instead of competing against each other. And most importantly, we never surrender when we know we are fighting for something worth protecting." Across the galaxy, the news of humanity's victory continued to spread. On world after world, enslaved species began to whisper about the humans who had laughed at impossible odds and turned an invasion into a lesson in military strategy. The Dominion Alliance would never be the same. Oh, neither would the galaxy. As Captain Daeyoon had said, this had been an ideal warm-up. Now humanity was ready for whatever came next.